The coffee shop is crowded on that Tuesday afternoon, and Grace is running late. She pushes through the door of beans and pages, the small café tucked between a bookstore and a pharmacy on the high street, her laptop bag sliding off her shoulder, her phone pressed between her ear and her shoulder, her mind racing through the presentation she still hasn't finished. She isn't looking for love. She isn't even looking where she's going. Which is why she walks directly into him. The collision is spectacular in its awkwardness. His iced coffee, the entire thing, empties onto his shirt. Her laptop bag swings forward and catches him in the ribs. Her phone clatters to the floor. And for one suspended moment, they both freeze, faces inches apart, caught in the chaos they've created. "I am so sorry," Grace breathes, already reaching for napkins, for her phone, for some way to undo the last 5 seconds. The man looks down at his ruined shirt, light blue, now decorated with a spreading brown stain, and then back at her. His expression is unreadable for one terrifying second. And then he laughs. Not a polite chuckle. Not a strained attempt at graciousness. A genuine, full-bodied laugh that crinkles the corners of his eyes and transforms his entire face from handsome to devastating. "Well," he says, dabbing uselessly at his shirt with the napkins she's thrust at him, "I was going to drink that coffee, but I suppose wearing it works too." "I'll buy you another one," Grace says quickly. 2. 10. "However many it takes for you to forgive me for," she gestures at the destruction, "all of this. One will be fine." He extends his hand, the one not holding soggy napkins. "I'm Thomas. But everyone calls me Tom." "Grace." She shakes his hand, noting how warm his palm is, how his grip is firm without being aggressive, how he hasn't stopped smiling since he started. "And I really am sorry. I was distracted and rushing Anne. Life in London," he finishes for her. "I understand. Believe me." She buys him that replacement coffee. She intends to leave after, her presentation isn't going to write itself, but somehow, she ends up sitting across from him at a small corner table. And somehow, an hour passes. Then 2. Thomas, she learns, is a software engineer who works for a tech startup in Canary Wharf. He grew up in Manchester but moved to London for university and never left. He reads voraciously, mostly history and philosophy, and has strong opinions about the proper way to make a Sunday roast that he defends with the passion of a litigator. He volunteers on weekends at a coding boot camp for underprivileged youth because, he says, someone gave me a chance once. "I'm just paying it forward." He asks about her life with genuine curiosity, leaning forward when she speaks, asking follow-up questions that prove he's actually listening. She tells him about her job in marketing at a pharmaceutical company, about her dream of eventually starting her own agency, about her family in Bristol whom she misses terribly but can only visit during holidays. She does not tell him, because she doesn't know yet, that this random Tuesday afternoon will change everything. That the man sitting across from her, coffee-stained and laughing, will become the center of her universe. That she will look back on this moment, years from now, and wonder what her life would have been if she had simply watched where she was going. But that's the thing about love. It never announces itself. It just arrives, uninvited and undeniable, and rearranges everything you thought you knew. When they finally part ways, 3 hours after a collision that should have lasted 3 seconds, Thomas asks for her number. Grace gives it without hesitation, surprising herself. She isn't the type to give her number to strangers, isn't the type to believe in love at first sight, isn't the type to feel her heart racing from a simple conversation. But something about this man makes her want to break all her own rules. He calls her that same night. Not texts, calls. His voice in her ear is warm and slightly nervous, and she finds herself smiling at the ceiling of her small flat like a teenager. "I know we just met," he says, "but I can't stop thinking about our conversation. Would you want to get dinner this weekend? Somewhere nicer than a coffee shop where I'm not wearing your beverage?" She laughs. She says yes. And just like that, it begins. The first date becomes a second. The second becomes a third. Within a month, Grace and Thomas have established a rhythm, a gravitational pull toward each other that neither can explain or resist. He takes her to a small restaurant in Hampstead where the owner knows his name and the roast lamb is legendary. She takes him to an art gallery opening where she knows no one but wants to seem cultured. They spend a Saturday wandering through the British Museum, making up ridiculous backstories for the artifacts until a security guard asks them to lower their voices. They watch sunsets from Primrose Hill, sitting on a bench, talking about everything and nothing until the city lights blink on around them. Thomas is unlike anyone Grace has ever dated. Her previous relationships had been careful, calculated affairs. Men who looked good on paper, who checked the right boxes, who fit neatly into the life she thought she was supposed to want. But none of them made her feel the way Thomas does, like she's been waiting her whole life for someone who finally speaks her language. He remembers things. Small things. The way she mentioned once, in passing, that she loves those little Portuguese custard tarts, and suddenly he's showing up at her office with a box from that bakery near his flat. The song she hummed while they were stuck in traffic, which appears on a playlist he makes for her. The fact that she drinks her coffee with entirely too much sugar, which he teases her about relentlessly but never forgets when he orders for her. He is attentive without being suffocating. Present without being possessive. And when he looks at her, really looks at her, Grace feels seen in a way she never has before. "How is this real?" she asks him one night, 2 months in. They're on her sofa, her head on his shoulder, a film playing that neither of them is watching. "How are you real?" Thomas kisses the top of her head. "I ask myself the same thing about you. Every single day." Her friends notice the change in her. The way she smiles at her phone, the way she talks about him with stars in her eyes, the way she has become lighter, brighter, more herself than she's been in years. "This one is different," her best friend Sarah observes during one of their Saturday brunches. "I can see it." "He is," Grace admits. "I know it sounds crazy, we've only been together 2 months, but I can see a future with him, Sarah. I can see everything." "Have you told your mother?" The question brings Grace back to earth with a gentle thud. No, she hasn't told her mother. Her mother, who has very specific ideas about the kind of man Grace should marry. Her mother, who asks about grandchildren every phone call. Her mother, who would want to know every detail about Thomas and would undoubtedly find something to criticize. "Not yet," Grace says. "It's still early. I don't want to jinx it. But it's more than that, and she knows it. There are questions she hasn't asked Thomas yet. Details she's avoided, preferring the comfortable blur of new love to the sharp clarity of practical concerns. Like his age. She doesn't know exactly how old he is. He has the energy of someone young, the maturity of someone experienced. Late 20s, she assumes. Maybe early 30s at most. He hasn't mentioned it, and she hasn't asked, because some part of her doesn't want to know. Doesn't want to introduce any complication into this perfect bubble they've created. But bubbles, by their nature, are fragile. And reality has a way of finding the sharp edges. The months pass in a haze of happiness. 3 months. 4. 5. Grace and Thomas grow closer, their lives intertwining in ways both mundane and profound. She leaves a toothbrush at his flat. He keeps her favorite snacks in his refrigerator. They have inside jokes, shared silences, a whole private language that exists only between them. She meets his friends, a group of engineers and entrepreneurs who welcome her warmly. He meets Sarah and her other girlfriends, charming them effortlessly. The relationship deepens, solidifies, becomes something neither of them can imagine living without. At 6 months, they exchange "I love you" for the first time. It happens on a rainy evening, the kind of sudden London downpour that turns streets to rivers and traps people wherever they happen to be. They're in Thomas's flat, listening to the rain hammer against the windows, wrapped in each other on his sofa. "I love you," Thomas says, so quietly that Grace almost misses it. I know it might be too soon to say, but I need you to know. I love you, Grace. Completely. She turns to face him, searching his eyes for any hint of uncertainty and finding none. Just warmth. Just truth. Just him, offering her his heart and hoping she'll accept it. I love you too, she whispers. I think I have since the day you laughed about the coffee I spilled on you. He kisses her then, deep and tender, and the rain becomes background music to the symphony of their beginning. At 7 months, they talk about the future. Not in vague terms anymore, but specifically. Where they might live. How many children they might have. What their wedding might look like. Thomas wants something intimate, family only. Grace wants the big traditional ceremony, the whole village invited. They compromise easily, laughing at their own seriousness, marveling at how natural it feels to plan a life together. My mother is going to love you, Grace tells him. Once she gets over herself, she's going to love you. Gets over herself? Grace hesitates. This is the part she's been avoiding. The conversation she's been putting off because she doesn't want it to matter, doesn't want it to change anything. She has certain expectations, Grace says carefully. About the kind of man I should marry. His background, his family, his age. His age. Grace shifts uncomfortably. She believes a man should be older than his wife, but not too much older. A few years at most. She's very traditional about these things. And honestly, I grew up with those same beliefs. They're ingrained in me whether I like it or not. And what do you believe? I believe love is what matters, Grace says firmly. I believe compatibility and respect and partnership are what make a marriage work. Age is just a number. But? She sighs. But I was raised with those beliefs too. They're in my head whether I want them there or not. If a man is too much older. I don't know. It would be hard for me. It would take adjustment. Thomas nods slowly. He doesn't say anything else, and Grace doesn't push. The conversation fades into other topics, and she assumes the matter is closed. She has no idea that she just stepped onto a landmine that's about to explode. It happens at 8 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. Grace knows the exact count because she will remember this moment for the rest of her life. They're at a dinner party hosted by one of Thomas's university friends. The flat is crowded, the music is loud, and everyone is drinking wine and telling stories from their school days. Grace loves these gatherings, loves seeing this side of Thomas, relaxed and laughing with people who have known him for years. She's in the kitchen, helping the hostess arrange dessert plates, when she overhears a conversation from the living room. One of Thomas's friends, a loud, cheerful man named William, is telling a story about their university days. Remember when you turned 30 and we threw you that surprise party? William is saying. You were so cross because you didn't want anyone to know. That was years ago, Thomas interrupts, but Grace's blood has already run cold. 30 years ago. Her mind races, doing the math she's been avoiding for 8 months. If Thomas was 30 years ago, if the way William is talking suggests this was not a recent birthday, then Thomas is not late 20s. He's not even early 30s. She sets down the plate she's holding. Her hands are shaking. Excuse me, she says to the hostess, her voice strange in her own ears. I need some air. She walks through the living room without looking at anyone, grabs her bag from the sofa, and steps onto the balcony. The London night is cool and damp, the noise of the party muffled by the glass door behind her. She grips the railing and tries to breathe. Behind her, the door slides open. Grace. Thomas's voice is careful. Worried. What's wrong? You just walked out. How old are you? The question hangs in the air between them. Thomas is silent. How old, Thomas? He exhales slowly. 37. The number hits her like a physical blow. 37. She is 27. A 10-year difference. A decade. The exact thing she told him she would struggle with, and he never said a word. 8 months. Her voice is shaking now. 8 months, and you never thought to mention this? Grace, let me explain. Explain what? That you lied to me? That you let me fall in love with you without knowing basic facts about who you are? I never lied. You never asked, and I don't. She holds up her hand. Don't make this about what I didn't ask. You knew. You knew my beliefs. I told you my mother's expectations, and you must have known from the beginning that you didn't fit them. And you said nothing. Thomas runs his hands through his hair, the gesture desperate. Because I was afraid. The question hangs in the air. Grace doesn't answer, because she doesn't know. The thought of ending things with Thomas feels like cutting off her own arm. But the thought of continuing, knowing he hid something so fundamental, feels equally impossible. On day 10, there's a knock on her door. She knows who it is before she opens it. She almost doesn't, almost pretends she's not home, almost lets cowardice win. But something makes her get out of bed, wrap a dressing gown around herself, and turn the handle. Thomas looks terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, clothes that look like he's been wearing them for days. He holds a folder in his hands, thick with papers. Before you close the door, he says quickly, please just let me say one thing. Grace doesn't close the door. She doesn't invite him in either. She just stands there, waiting. You're right, Thomas says. About all of it. I should have told you. From the beginning, I should have been honest about my age. I told myself it was because I was afraid of losing you, but that's not fair to you. You deserve the choice. You deserve the truth. He holds out the folder. I've spent the last 10 days writing everything down. Everything about my life, my history, my mistakes. Every relationship, every failure, every secret I've ever kept. I don't want there to be anything hidden between us anymore. If you never want to see me again after reading this, I'll understand. But if you're going to walk away from us, I want you to walk away with the complete picture. Not because of one mistake I made, but because of who I actually am. Grace takes the folder slowly. It's heavy in her hands. The age thing, Thomas continues, his voice rough. I know it goes against what you were taught. I know it doesn't fit your family's expectations. And if that's truly a deal breaker for you, if you can't see past it, then I'll accept that. But I need you to know that I love you. Completely, desperately, with everything I have. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that I can be trusted, if you give me the chance. He turns to leave, then stops. One more thing. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But please remember, before the anger, before the betrayal, there was us. There was 8 months of something real. Something I've never had with anyone else. He looks at her with red-rimmed eyes. Whatever you decide, please don't let one mistake erase all of that. I couldn't bear it. He walks away. Grace stands in her doorway, holding the folder, watching until he disappears down the stairwell. Then she closes the door, sits on her sofa, and begins to read. The folder contains everything. His childhood in Manchester, raised by a single mother after his father died when he was 7. The struggles of growing up with very little, the determination to succeed, the scholarships that got him through school. His first love at 19, a girl named Claire who broke his heart. His career journey, from entry-level programmer to startup engineer. His previous relationships, 2 of them serious, both ending because he worked too much, loved too little, couldn't give women what they needed. And his fears. Pages and pages of fears. Fear of inadequacy. Fear of repeating his father's absence. Fear of never finding someone who understood him. And the fear that when he finally found that someone, she would leave the moment she discovered the parts of him that didn't fit the image she wanted. Grace reads through the night, tears streaming down her face. By morning, she has consumed every word, and she understands something she didn't before. Thomas wasn't hiding his age to deceive her. He was hiding it because he had finally found something precious, and he was terrified of losing it over something that shouldn't matter but did. His fear was wrong, his method was wrong, but the love underneath it was real. And her anger, as justified as it was, had been masking something too. Her own fear. Fear of what her mother would say. Fear of being judged by society. Fear of stepping outside the lines that had been drawn for her since childhood. She had been so focused on his deception that she hadn't examined her own. The part of her that secretly welcomed the excuse to run. The part that was terrified of how deeply she loved him. The part that found it easier to be angry than to be vulnerable. At 6 a.m., she picks up her phone and calls him. He answers on the first ring. Grace. I read everything. A long pause. And I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. What you did was wrong, Thomas. Hiding something you knew mattered to me, that was a betrayal, and you can't take it back. I know. But. She takes a shaky breath. But I understand why you did it. And I've been doing some thinking about my own fears, my own prejudices. The beliefs I was raised with, they're not necessarily my beliefs. I've been letting other people's voices drown out my own heart. What is your heart saying? She closes her eyes. That I love you. That the thought of losing you is worse than the thought of any age gap. That I want to try, really try, to build something with you, even if it's hard, even if my family disapproves, even if I have to unlearn everything I was taught about what love is supposed to look like. She hears him exhale, a sound like relief, like hope, like coming home. Grace, I promise you, I will never hide anything from you again. Not ever. You will have all of me, the good and the bad, for as long as you want me. I want you, she whispers. I want you, Thomas. Even if it's complicated. Even if it's messy. I choose you. There's a sound on the other end that might be a sob, quickly contained. I love you. I love you so much. I love you too. She smiles through her tears. Now come over. We have a lot of talking to do. The reconciliation isn't immediate. Trust, once cracked, must be rebuilt brick by careful brick. Grace and Thomas spend the next several weeks in intensive, sometimes painful conversation. They talk about the age gap, really talk about it. What it means for their future, how it affects their perspectives, whether it will matter in 5 years, 10 years, 20. They talk about her family's expectations and how to handle them. They talk about his fears and hers, the landmines buried in both of them that could explode if they're not careful. Slowly, painstakingly, they build something new on the foundation of what was broken. It's different now. There's a new honesty between them, a rawness that wasn't there before. They don't hide from difficult topics anymore. When something bothers them, they say it. When fear creeps in, they name it. Their relationship becomes less like a fairy tale and more like a partnership, two imperfect people choosing each other, day after day, despite the complications. At 9 months, Grace introduces Thomas to her mother. It goes about as well as she expected. Her mother's smile freezes when she learns Thomas's age. There are uncomfortable questions at dinner, pointed remarks about men who wait too long, and girls who don't know better. Grace feels herself shrinking under her mother's disapproval, retreating into the obedient daughter she used to be. But then Thomas takes her hand under the table. Squeezes it gently. And something in Grace clicks into place. Mom, she says, interrupting her mother mid-criticism, I love this man. He treats me with respect. He makes me happy. And with all due respect, I am going to marry him whether you approve or not. The table goes silent. Her mother stares at her like she's seeing a stranger. And then, surprisingly, her mother laughs. Well, she says, shaking her head. At least you have some fire in you. I was beginning to wonder. It's not approval, exactly. But it's something. And as dinner continues, Grace catches her mother studying Thomas with new eyes, not as an interloper who doesn't fit the mold, but as a man who might actually be worthy of her daughter. Progress. Slow, imperfect, but real. At 10 months, Thomas proposes. It's not a surprise, they've been discussing marriage for weeks, but the moment still takes her breath away. He takes her back to Beans and Pages, to the exact table where they first sat after she spilled coffee on him. He gets down on one knee in front of the entire café, produces a ring that catches the light like a captured star, and asks her to be his wife. She says yes. Of course she says yes. The café erupts in applause. Strangers congratulate them. The barista gives them free drinks. And Grace feels, for the first time in her life, like everything is exactly as it should be. They set a date. Exactly 1 year from the day they met, the coffee shop collision that changed everything. It feels right. It feels like destiny. They are 3 weeks away from their 1-year anniversary when destiny intervenes. It starts as a routine matter. Premarital counseling, recommended by the vicar who will officiate their wedding. Part of the process involves medical screening, blood tests, genetic testing, the standard checks that couples do before starting a family. Grace isn't worried. She's known her genetic status since she was a teenager. She carries the sickle cell trait, AS, it's called. Common, manageable, not a problem as long as her partner doesn't carry the same trait. She assumes Thomas doesn't carry it. He's never mentioned otherwise. It simply never occurred to her to ask. The results come back on a Thursday afternoon. Grace is at work when her phone rings, Thomas, which is unusual for the middle of the day. Can you come to my place tonight, he asks. His voice sounds strange. There's something we need to discuss. She knows, somehow, before she even arrives. She knows from the way he said, discuss, instead of, talk about. She knows from the unusual formality of his voice. She knows from the way her stomach drops when she hangs up the phone. When she walks into his flat that evening, the test results are spread on his coffee table. I carry the trait too, he says without preamble. As. I never knew. My mother always told me I didn't carry anything. I never thought to get tested again as an adult. Grace stares at the papers. The letters swim before her eyes. As plus as. The combination that creates a 25% chance of producing a child with sickle cell disease. The combination that her parents warned her about since she was old enough to understand. The combination that doctors consider genetically incompatible for having children. No, she whispers. No, no, no. Grace. We were supposed to have children. 3 children, we named them, Thomas. We named them. She's crying now, gasping for breath. This can't be happening. Not now. Not after everything. Thomas reaches for her, and she collapses into his arms. They sink onto the sofa together, holding each other as the weight of this new reality crashes over them. There are options, they know. Medical interventions. Genetic screening during pregnancy. The possibility of children who beat the odds and are born without the disease. But the risk is there, always there, a shadow over every hope, every plan, every dream they've built together. And for 2 people who have already weathered one crisis, who have already rebuilt trust from the ground up, this feels like too much. Like the universe is telling them something they don't want to hear. They don't sleep that night. They talk, they cry, they rage against the unfairness of it all. They consider every angle, every possibility, every path forward. By morning, they have reached a devastating conclusion. We can't, Grace says, her voice hollow with grief. We can't bring a child into the world knowing they might suffer. Knowing there's a 1 in 4 chance they'll have sickle cell. I've seen what it does, Thomas. I've watched children in hospitals, in pain, their lives shortened and limited. I can't take that risk. I can't. Thomas's face is a mask of anguish, but he nods. I know. I've been thinking the same thing. If it were just about us, we could manage. But children, his voice breaks. We always wanted children. Maybe we could adopt. Maybe. But they both know it's not the same. Not because adopted children are loved any less, but because the dream they'd built, the specific, detailed dream of their biological family, is dying in front of them. They sit in silence for a long time, holding hands, saying goodbye to a future that will never exist. So what do we do? Grace finally asks. Do we stay together? Do we live this life we'd planned, just without the children? Or do we? She can't finish the sentence. Thomas closes his eyes. I don't know if I can give you a life without children, Grace. You've always wanted to be a mother. It's part of who you are. And I don't want you to spend the next 10 years with me, only to realize you've missed your chance to have the family you deserve. But I love you. I love you too. That's why I have to say this. He turns to face her, taking both her hands in his. Maybe we need to let each other go. So you can find someone who can give you everything. So I can stop feeling like I'm holding you back from your dreams. Grace shakes her head violently. No. I won't accept that. I refuse to walk away from you over something neither of us can control. Grace. Listen to me. Her grip on his hands tightens. I have spent 10 months loving you. I have rebuilt trust with you. I have stood up to my mother for you. And now you want me to throw it all away because of a genetic test. Because of probabilities and risks and what-ifs. It's not that simple. Nothing about us has ever been simple. She's crying again, but her voice is fierce. From the moment I spilled coffee on you, nothing has gone according to plan. And every time something went wrong, we chose each other. We fought for each other. We rebuilt what was broken. This is different. This is biology. This is something we can't rebuild or talk through or fix with honesty. Then we adapt. We change the plan. We find another way. She pulls him close, pressing her forehead to his. Please don't give up on us. Not now. Not ever. Thomas is silent for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is thick with emotion. I'm not giving up on us. I'm terrified of hurting you. Of watching you sacrifice your dreams for me. Of becoming someone you resent in 10 years when you realize what you've lost. You are not a sacrifice. You are my choice. You are my dream. Grace pulls back, looks him in the eye. I want you, Thomas. Not some hypothetical future with someone else. You. Whatever comes with you, whatever we have to face, I want to face it together. For a moment, hope flickers in his eyes. But then it fades, replaced by something sadder, more complicated. What if we take some time, he suggests quietly. Not to break up, but to think. To really consider what we're choosing and what we're giving up. So that when we make this decision, we make it with clear eyes. Grace doesn't want to wait. She wants to decide right now, to commit right now, to end this uncertainty that's tearing them apart. But she sees the wisdom in his words, even through her desperation. How much time? Our anniversary is in 3 weeks. Let's take those 3 weeks to think. To really sit with this. To imagine every possible future, together and apart. And on our anniversary, we'll decide. Whatever we choose, we'll choose together. It's not the answer she wanted. But it's an answer she can live with. Okay, she whispers. 3 weeks. And on our anniversary. On our anniversary, we'll know. The next 3 weeks are the longest of Grace's life. She throws herself into research, spending every spare moment learning about sickle cell disease, about medical advances, about the options available to couples in their situation. She discovers things she didn't know, that prenatal genetic testing can identify affected pregnancies, that some couples choose IVF with preimplantation genetic diagnosis to ensure healthy embryos, that medical science is advancing every year. But she also learns about the realities. The expense of these procedures. The emotional toll. The fact that none of it is guaranteed. And the fundamental question that no amount of research can answer: is she willing to accept a life without biological children if that's what it comes to? She talks to couples who have faced the same decision. Some chose to stay together and adopt. Some stayed together and remained childless by choice. Some separated, finding partners with compatible genetics, building the biological families they'd always wanted. None of them have easy answers. All of them speak of grief, of adjustment, of learning to want different things than what they'd originally imagined. Thomas is going through his own process. They talk every day, long, searching conversations about values and priorities and what love really means. They don't see each other in person, they agreed the distance would help them think more clearly. But their voices connect each night, sharing discoveries and fears and the slow, painful process of coming to terms. "I've been thinking about what you said," Thomas tells her one night, 10 days into their waiting period. "About adapting. About finding another way. And I've realized something. When I imagine my future, the one constant, the one thing that appears in every version, is you. Not children specifically, not the life we planned, but you. Your laugh. Your voice. The way you argue with me when you think I'm wrong. I can imagine happiness without biological children. I can't imagine happiness without you." Grace's heart swells. "But you were the one who suggested we might need to let each other go." "I know. I was scared. I was trying to be noble, to give you an out if you needed one. But I've realized, noble is just another word for cowardly if it means walking away from the person you love." "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying that when our anniversary comes, I know what I want. I want you, Grace. Whatever shape our family takes, I want to build it with you." She cries. Happy tears, this time. Hopeful tears. "I want that too," she admits. "I've been researching options, and there are possibilities. IVF with genetic testing. Adoption. Even just, accepting that life might look different than we planned. None of it scares me as long as you're beside me." "Then why are we still waiting?" "Because you were right. We needed this time. We needed to be sure, really sure, before we committed. Because if we choose each other now, it has to be forever. It has to be with full knowledge of what we're choosing and what we're giving up. So we wait. We wait. 11 more days. And then, on our anniversary, we choose each other. Officially. Irrevocably." She smiles through her tears. "I can't wait." The day arrives. October 17th. 1 year exactly since a distracted woman in a coffee shop collided with a man who would change her life. 1 year of love and discovery and crisis and healing. 1 year that felt like a lifetime and an instant all at once. They agree to meet at Beans and Pages. Where it started. Where he proposed. Where they will decide, once and for all, what their future holds. Grace arrives first. She wears a simple yellow dress, the same dress she wore on their first official date. Her hair is styled the way Thomas likes it. Her heart is beating so hard she's surprised other customers can't hear it. The door opens. There he is. Thomas looks different than he did 3 weeks ago. More at peace. More certain. He walks toward her with purpose, and when their eyes meet, Grace sees everything she needs to know reflected there. He loves her. He chooses her. He's not going anywhere. They embrace in the middle of the coffee shop, and the world around them disappears. The barista. The other customers. The noise of the city beyond the windows. None of it matters. Nothing matters except the two of them, holding onto each other like lifelines. "Happy anniversary," Thomas whispers into her hair. "Happy anniversary." She pulls back to look at him. "I have something to say." "So do I." "Me first." She takes a deep breath. "I have spent the last 3 weeks thinking about every possible future. And I've realized something. I was so focused on what we might lose, children, the life we planned, the expectations everyone has for us, that I almost forgot what we have right now. What we've already built. What nothing can take away. What's that? Us. A love that has already survived 2 crises that would have destroyed most couples. A partnership where we can be completely honest, completely vulnerable, completely ourselves. A foundation strong enough to weather whatever comes next." She takes his hands. "I don't know what our family will look like. I don't know if we'll have biological children, adopted children, or no children at all. But I know that I want to find out together. I choose you, Thomas. Today and every day for the rest of my life." Thomas's eyes are glistening. "You stole my speech." She laughs. "Sorry. No, it's perfect. Because I was going to say the same thing." He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small box, different from the engagement ring box. "I had this made during the waiting period." "Open it." She opens the box. Inside are 2 rings, simple gold bands, intertwined with a pattern that looks like DNA helixes. One is slightly larger than the other. "These are our commitment rings," Thomas explains. "I had them designed to look like genetic code. Because our genes are the thing that brought us to this crossroads, but our genes are also what makes us who we are. What drew us together. What created the love we share. They're beautiful," Grace breathes. "I want to wear mine today. And I want you to wear yours. Not as wedding rings, we'll get those when we actually marry, but as a symbol of our choice. That we're not running from the challenge of our genetics. We're facing it together, as partners, and we refuse to let it define our future." She slides the smaller ring onto her finger. He does the same with his. They fit perfectly. "So what happens now?" she asks. "Now we live. We set a wedding date. We research our options for starting a family. We talk to genetic counselors, adoption agencies, fertility specialists. We figure out our path, step by step, together. And if we decide we can't have biological children, then we grieve that loss together. And we find another way to build a family. Adoption. Fostering. Being the world's best aunt and uncle to other people's children." He cups her face in his hands. "The dream we had, the specific version with biological children, might be gone. But that doesn't mean we can't dream new dreams. Better dreams. Dreams that fit who we actually are instead of who we thought we were supposed to be." Grace leans into his touch. "When did you get so wise?" "Somewhere between the 8th month and the 11th. Crisis has a way of clarifying things." She kisses him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. The barista whoops. Someone in the corner starts applauding. They break apart, laughing, embarrassed but not really caring. "Come on," Thomas says, taking her hand. "Let's get out of here. We have a lot of celebrating to do." They walk out of the coffee shop together, into the London evening, into the rest of their lives. 1 year later. Grace stands in the bathroom of their flat, the one they moved into together after the wedding, staring at a piece of plastic that just changed everything. 2 lines. Unmistakable. She checked 3 times with 3 different tests, and all of them agree. She's pregnant. Thomas is in the living room, watching football, unaware that their carefully researched plans have just been upended by the most fundamental surprise imaginable. They had decided, after months of consultations and discussions, to pursue IVF with pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. It was the safest option, testing embryos before implantation to ensure none carried the sickle cell disease. They had begun the process 6 months ago, had completed the first round of hormone treatments, had been waiting for the next step in the protocol. But biology, it seems, had other plans. She walks into the living room on shaking legs. Thomas looks up from the television, sees her face, and immediately mutes the sound. Grace? What's wrong? She can't speak. She just holds up the test, the 2 lines visible even from across the room. Thomas's expression goes through a rapid series of transformations. Confusion. Recognition. Shock. Fear. And then, tentatively, cautiously, hope. Is that? I'm pregnant. Her voice cracks. Naturally pregnant. We weren't even trying. He's on his feet in an instant, crossing the room, taking her hands. But, the IVF. I know. I don't understand it either. But here we are. They stand in silence, holding each other, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. They both know what this means. A 25% chance that the child will have sickle cell disease. A 50% chance the child will carry the trait like both of them. A 25% chance, the slimmest possibility, that the child will be completely unaffected. We need to get tested, Thomas says finally. Prenatal genetic testing. We can find out. I know. She nods. I already called my doctor. We have an appointment tomorrow. And if he can't finish the sentence. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Together. Like we decided. He pulls her close, and she feels his heart pounding against her chest. I'm scared, he admits. I'm terrified. Me too. She buries her face in his shoulder. But I'm also hopeful. Maybe it's naive, but I feel like we've already been tested so much. We've already proven that we can handle hard things. Whatever this test shows, we'll figure it out. I love you. I love you too. They stay like that for a long time, 2 people on the edge of uncertainty, holding onto each other like anchors in a storm. The genetic counselor's office is painted in soothing neutral tones, beige walls, soft lighting, carefully chosen artwork designed to calm anxious patients. It's not working. Grace grips Thomas's hand so tightly she's probably cutting off circulation, but he doesn't complain. He just grips back, equally desperate, equally scared. The test was performed 2 weeks ago. Chorionic villus sampling, a procedure that analyzes genetic material from the placenta. It's earlier and more accurate than amniocentesis, though slightly riskier. They didn't care about the risk. They needed to know. Now they're about to find out. Dr. Pemberton enters the room with a folder in her hands. Her expression is professionally neutral, giving nothing away. She sits down across from them, places the folder on her desk, and looks at them with kind eyes. I know the last 2 weeks have been difficult, she says. I want you to know that whatever these results show, we have options. Medical interventions have come a long way. No diagnosis is a death sentence anymore. Grace's heart is pounding so loud she can barely hear. Just tell us. Please. Dr. Pemberton opens the folder. There's a pause that lasts forever. Your baby is AS, she says finally. Sickle cell trait. Like both of you. The words take a moment to penetrate. As. Not SS. Not sickle cell disease. The trait, the same thing Grace and Thomas both carry. Manageable. Livable. Not a life-threatening condition. She's okay. Thomas's voice is hoarse. Our baby is okay. She is, Dr. Pemberton confirms, and there's a smile breaking through her professional demeanor now. She'll carry the trait, which means she'll need to be aware of genetic compatibility when she eventually chooses a partner. But she won't have sickle cell disease. She'll live a completely normal, healthy life. Grace bursts into tears. Relief, joy, months of suppressed terror finally releasing. Thomas holds her, crying himself, both of them sobbing in the genetic counselor's office like they've just won the lottery. Because they have. Against the odds, against the 25% chance of tragedy, their daughter will be healthy. A girl, Grace whispers when she finally catches her breath. You said, she. We're having a girl. Dr. Pemberton's smile widens. I did. Congratulations. You're having a daughter. 7 months later, at 3:47 a.m. on a rainy Tuesday morning, Charlotte Hartley enters the world.
She's perfect.
She weighs 7 pounds and 4 ounces. She has her father's eyes and her mother's stubborn chin. She screams with impressive lung capacity, announcing her presence to the entire maternity ward, and when she's finally placed on Grace's chest, she immediately stops crying and looks up at her mother with an expression of profound recognition. Hello, my love, Grace whispers, tears streaming down her face. We've been waiting for you. Thomas stands beside the bed, one hand on his wife's shoulder, the other reaching down to touch his daughter's tiny fingers. She grips his thumb with surprising strength. She's perfect, he breathes. Absolutely perfect. The doctors confirm it. Charlotte is healthy in every way. Strong heartbeat, clear lungs, all the expected reflexes. The AS trait she carries is invisible, undetectable without genetic testing. It will never limit her life. But Grace and Thomas know they got lucky. They know that the 25% chance was real, that other couples in their situation don't get the outcome they did. They know that their joy is built on the edge of what could have been grief. It makes them grateful. Fiercely, passionately grateful for every breath their daughter takes. We should tell her, Grace murmurs later, when the hospital room has quieted and Charlotte sleeps peacefully in her bassinet. When she's old enough. About the choice we made, the risk we took. About how close we came to walking away from each other. We will, Thomas agrees.